So for newly licensed agents, what kind of advice would you give them for doing their first deal? So, when you get your license, they don't teach you anything about the contract.
No.
They don't teach you anything about how to negotiate. They don't teach you how to sell. They don't teach you how to find clients. They don't teach you anything. They just teach you how to stay out of realtor jail, basically. So
yeah, that's a good point.
So if somebody's needs or wants to do their first deal, but they're very insecure, they don't know what they're doing. I mean, what kind of advice would you give them to help them with getting their first few deals under their belt?
Sure. So a little backstory. My first deal, how long had I been with you?
Oh, your first deal? Well, it depends on which one you consider your first deal.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's true. Well, I kind of came into real estate. I mean, I was letting people know, like, it's all about the hustle. So, like, if you can hustle even before, it's really important. So I was telling people, like, I'm getting my real estate license. I would talk to my neighbors outside and tell them, not trying to get them as a client, but you're just putting it out there. You're having to sell yourself constantly. And so one of my neighbors was going to be in the market. And once she was like, it would be so fun to look at houses with you. And I was like, it would be fun. And then I don't know what to do after that.
And then we can do something that I don't know what that would be.
I know. So we ended up looking at houses together because it was fun. And then she wanted to buy one. And I was like, okay. So first, it's really important to have somebody to go to with your questions, whether it be a fellow agent on your team, your broker, your associate broker, whomever. You need somebody to go to like, first of all, freak out on and be like, I don't know what I'm doing, and like cry or like have a meltdown or whatever, and then them say, it's gonna be okay. I got your back. So try very hard to have a mentor to help you out. You don't know anything about anything. You don't know anything about contracts, rules, regulations, obligations, what you're supposed to do, when, who, what, where, when, why. You literally have no idea. And one thing that I didn't do this initially, but I did it, especially after my first deal, is I went through a source where we keep our files called Dot Loop. And I went into past deals that had already closed. And I looked to see what forms you had to use to get that deal done, what a contract, a fully ratified contract looked like. Home inspections, I went and read through them just to see how other deals had already closed. What did you have to do to get that deal closed? What form did you have to fill out? How did you fill it out? So always tapping into previous things to see how that was done and kind of following that lead. And then just nonstop calling your broker and asking her questions. I'm sorry about that.
But I love our conversation, so it's fine. So how important do you think it is to have somebody that is a mentor that can guide you through your transactions one by one and help you with whatever? Because no transaction is the same. So even if you get full training and on the contracts and things like that, it matters, but it also doesn't matter because whatever you're going to run into is probably something that you didn't experience or learned in training anyway. Right. I mean, how important do you think it is to have a mentor?
I think it's critical. I mean, I don't think I would literally be sitting here today if I didn't have a variety, honestly, of people to go to, not just one individual.
Right.
But even our transaction coordinator, I could go to her and ask a question about, am I filling this out right? Is this contract correct? Our listing coordinator, I could ask her questions about, if I was literally filling out my listing agreements correctly, or where this paper was, or where this was, or what her experience was. So it's not really just one person to go to. I feel like it's a little bit of a team, but it's critical in my experience. I mean, if you've got it like that and you can just run with it and make your own situation, good for you, thumbs up. But real estate's so reactive. It's like if somebody comes at you, whether it be title company or a lender or your client, whomever, I really feel like you need somebody with that experience to go back to and say, like, help me out. What have you experienced this? Like, what should I do? What's best for my client?
Yeah.
And let them help you. It's huge.
Yeah, I mean, and I had a mentor when I got into the business as well. I was with a different company and wasn't getting any guidance and wasn't selling any houses. And then I went with another company and had a broker that met with me every week, and I was able to cry and complain and get back on track. And he was kind of just like rewriting me every week to make sure I was staying on track.
Right.
And I was Rookie of the Year my first year in the business, and I 100% equate it to that.
Nice.
If I did not have him, in my back pocket, I would have sold 0 houses. I would have been back doing God knows what. And, I just feel like that's so important because there just is a lack of that in the business, and it's very rare to even get that. So if you can find that, I think that's really huge. So what about all the peaks and valleys that people experience in the business? I mean, one month you're going to be a millionaire, and then the next month you're going to be broke, and all the roller coaster of emotions that happen with this business, because it's never consistent. One month you have a ton of deals, and then the next month not so much, and that's very normal. So how would you guide somebody in their first year in the business to be able to deal with the ups and downs that they're inevitably going to come across?
Yes. I mean, I think starting in real estate, you need to set your expectations very low, very low. It'll work out how it's supposed to, which I say that literally 1,000 times a day in my own head and verbally. If you're looking for consistency, being a independent contractor who is hustling for commission and dealing with emotions and all these things, you're not going to get consistency in real estate. I mean, you may have a couple of really great back-to-back deals that give you hope and make you smile, but for the most part, it is literally, I call it a roller coaster of emotions. So if you set the standard and the bar really, really low and not expect I'm going to have all these deals and all these clients and it's going to be so easy, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I just spoke with you 3 days ago, and I was like, oh my God, why did I do this? And then somebody's happy with you, your client's happy, and they give you praise or whatever it is, and you close the deal that you thought was never going to close, and it kind of evens out a little bit. And then you go down.
Yeah.
And then you go up and you go down.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of nice, and you get used to it, but it is a roller coaster.
So I always say that people quit right before they're successful because they are at their maximum level of frustration, and generally success is on the other side of that frustration. But that's also when people quit, is when they're at that maximum level of frustration. And I see it all the time where we have people on our team and they're grinding so hard and they're being consistent with their activity, and things just aren't coming together, and then they just quit. And yet those people they've been talking to and those people they've been working with all of a sudden now start coming into deals right after they quit. So somebody else got to take advantage of that versus them. So what kind of advice would you give somebody that is just working their tail off and things just aren't happening and they're at that height of frustration? What kind of advice would you give that agent?
I would definitely say real estate isn't instant gratification. It is not. It is always looking ahead. Whether it be looking ahead in the current deal that you're working on, or looking ahead into past a frustration. Because like you said, a lot of people get super frustrated. They're at this peak of frustration, and if they can just get past that peak is when it gets better. So you always need to think ahead, look ahead. Don't get too wound up in whatever is currently frustrating you. Know that there is an end to whatever that is, and then just keep going to the next day and the next day and the next day. So I would, and still do, get very frustrated, and you question your entire life, your real estate career.
It's true.
And I try not to think too far out. I just say just get through this day, get through this deal, get through this home inspection, and usually whenever I do that, the next week, say I'm frustrated on Thursday the 1st. The next week on Thursday the 8th, I don't even remember what was happening on Thursday.
Have a short-term memory.
Have a short-term memory. Focus on short-term memory. But always just keep going. Just keep moving, and don't really give up on yourself just because you're in a really, really hard time.
Yeah. And
usually your toughest time is your greatest reward.
That's true.
You're so proud of yourself.
Every valley has an equal peak.
Beautiful. A Christyism.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard that from somebody. I'm sure I've had to say that to myself many, many, many times in this business. So, yeah. So, and I think that it's really important for people when they're new to focus on what they can control.
Correct.
Because you can't control your clients. We like to think that we can, but you
try.
can't.
Yeah.
You can't control the other agent. You can't control the title company or the mortgage company. You can't control any of that. The only thing that you can control is your activity and how you respond to the events that happen in your career. And you mentioned something about this not being a instant gratification.
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is absolutely not a get-rich-quick scheme.
No.
It is a
Maybe
basic
rich.
income, maybe rich, eventually long-term kind of scheme. So, you really have to love what you're doing. I mean, what took you through in those times when you felt like you wanted to quit, or you were super frustrated, or things weren't working out the way that you wanted to? How did you deal with that yourself?
Well, for me, I think it's a few things that kind of get me through those tough times. I mean, you asked, what got me into real estate, and I said, I really like people. And it always kind of comes back to that at the end, is I'm working for a person or people in a deal, and, I want to come through for them. And I'm always looking out for their best interests and taking care of them. That is always what my focus is. And if I just do that, then it's going to work out. Even if the deal doesn't go through or, things fall apart at the end, it's always taking care of that individual. That's always been my focus, and I hope that it stays that way, because I think I'll be all right.
Okay, so if you had to say 3 things that helped you become successful in your first year, which she's being humble right now, but Jennifer has sold about 10 times more houses in her first year than most agents sell. So if you had to attribute that to 3 things that you have done in the past year, what would those 3 things be?
The 3 things I would contribute my success to is having individuals or a mentor to go to and ask questions, and ask a lot. Even if you bother them like they can't stand you, just keep asking.
I would rather have somebody be educated than not, right?
Not.
So yes, ask every question possible.
Right. Use the resources that are given to you as well. Like, for example, tapping into the dot loop and going and looking at old contracts and things that were done to make deals go through, not fall through. The 3rd thing I would contribute my success to is making calls. Staying consistent with the foundation of real estate, which is calling people, reaching out to people. If people need something from you, you're giving them what they need. Just always going back to the foundation of the business. So I think those are definitely the 3 things that have kind of kept me moving and hustling.
Well, that's pretty awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, and hopefully you guys got some goodness out of what Jennifer had to say. I'm super excited to see your career explode and see how things go for the next 10 years or the lifetime that you're in this business for you. And if you need any assistance or would like to talk about setting up a strategy call, feel free to call, text, or email me.